Buonasera a tutti.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this session entitled Pursuing Hope. This is also the title of the beautiful book published by Amy in Italy last September. The book was translated into Italian so that the Italian public could actually learn more about the story of Sister Rosemary, and we are really happy to have her here tonight. Welcome. I'm a student at the last year of the medical school, and it was quite difficult for me to think how to introduce such an important person. But, Pope Francis helped me with the message he sent us, and I quote, "To earn one's inheritance, one's legacy is a commitment for us. We should not be discouraged by pain and suffering. We cannot look at reality from our windows. We cannot just sit in front of the TV to look at the world passing by. We have to earn back what was good, what was beautiful, what our Father passed on to us. This is the only way to communicate in a convincing way the joy of the gospel." So this is the perfect way to explain why we invited Sister Rosemary here tonight, because she's a very convincing example of the joy of gospel with all the pain and suffering that this can entail. Her life is devoted to give back their dignity to thousands of young women who have been abducted, who have been forced sometimes even to kill their parents, abducted by the militias in Uganda, in the northern part of the country. This is a group that has been active from the end of the 80s to the beginning of the year 2000. This actually led to 2 million people to abandon their home. About 100,000 children were abducted. And it is in this context that Sister Rosemary lives. And she's been living here since she was young. She was born in a Catholic family, and since she was a child, she has always been very bright, and she always had a very strong faith. And by reading the book published in Italy with the title Cucire la Speranza, I was really surprised because there is a strict connection between her life and the title of our of the meeting tonight, this year. I'm sorry. If what we do is based on the certainty of faith, we can give back hope to people also in a very difficult situation. And by reading this book, I understood better also this symbol of the meeting, that is to say, a tree with very long and strong roots, because Sister Rosemary will talk about all the initiatives that were launched over the years, but obviously this very interesting work needs to be based on solid roots. And for Sister Rosemary, these roots are to be found in her faith. When she was 15, she decided to enter the group of the Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. She graduated in
Poi non contenta, diciamo.
obstetrics, and she also decided to take a master in ethics of the development. But today she will be talking about a different story that started in 2001 when she started to work at the St. Monica School in Gulu, which is at the center of the area that is hit by the violence of this group of militias. And this is where she met the first of these young women, and she finally understands their tragic situation and decides to commit herself to these young women and to give them a possibility to start again in life. And this is something that she does by teaching them how to sew, how to cook, and through these skills she offers them the possibility to sew back their wounds, so to speak. So, well, this school obviously started to attract many young girls, and the products that these girls make are sold everywhere. So, well, some can be bought on here at the meeting. So they become quite popular. And Sister Rosemary was declared Hero of the Year by CNN in 2007. And in 2014, Time magazine enlisted her among the 100 most influential people in the world. And she is the only Catholic person there, together with Pope Francis.
Per cui, diciamo, non perdiamo altro tempo.
So, well, now I leave the floor to Sister Rosemary. Please tell us about your life, your story, and the work you do.
I am very excited to be in this audience today. And I think this is my biggest audience in Italy for the first time. Last year, I spent a long time going around Italy to promote the book, Cucire la Speranza. And it is always interesting because when I speak about women and children. And some people have questions immediately. Why are you only talking about women? And the answer is simple. Women are mothers. Mothers have boys and girls. These are the children they bring up every day. From 1986 to 2008, northern Uganda went through a terrible situation of war. This war was waged by the rebels of Lord's Resistance Army. The motives of the rebels was to restore the 10 Commandments. For anybody who knows about the 10 Commandments, you know that at least one of them says, "Thou shalt not kill." And the rebels broke all the commandments. These rebels had a great target of collecting children and young boys and girls. They take the children and train them as child soldiers. The girls were more valued because they could serve dual purpose. Girls were used as sex slaves. They were raped and given as a reward. to different rebel commanders. And some of these children were taken from their families, maybe 2 children or 3, from just one family. Some children were raped in front of their parents who were helpless. And when these children were moving with these rebels, they were forced to carry heavy luggage. They were not allowed to complain of tiredness. Whenever they complain of tiredness, the rebels would cause other children, will invite other children to kill the one complaining. This was a way of brainwashing the children, to let them feel they will never be accepted if they escape to go back. After some years in captivity, a good number of children tried to escape, and coming back home, they found no acceptance. And this situation was more complex for young girls because they got pregnant and gave birth. And I always admire these girls because they took courage to escape with their children. And coming back, the children were a constant reminder of their slavery. The children became a stigma for these girls. And of course, their own families could not accept them also with the children. That is exactly where we would say, where is the root of these children? These children had their fathers who are murderers. And these young women who were victims, who were forced to kill people, even kill their own relatives, felt victims again in a free society. And of course, they lived with that guilt feeling for the rest of their lives. I would like to tell you the story of one girl, Sharon. If you get an opportunity to read the book, you will read about what Sharon is explaining. She was abducted with her younger sister, and when they were supposed to cross a river, she begged the rebels to carry her little sister. The rebels readily told Sharon to choose. Then she has to choose between the life of her sister and her life, or both of them would be killed. Sharon was forced to cut her sister. And when she killed her sister, she said later she felt like she killed herself. I worked with Sharon and helped her to speak out. I made her to talk while I listened attentively. First, she did not want to speak about it. She was afraid that I would not forgive her. But I told her that I don't need to forgive her. It is only God who forgave her completely. The dying of Jesus on the cross, the death of Jesus on the cross, washed away. It washed all our sins, and Sharon was inclusive. This testimony of the blood of Jesus on the cross and acceptance and love given to Sharon helped her after a long time to get out of these feelings. I encourage her to start learning and reading and writing. Sharon took up my advice, and she is now a different person. She has mended her brokenness. Sharon has forgiven herself. She is married and has 2 beautiful children. She herself looks very beautiful. One of our tasks was always to help these young women to feel they were not coming to a school but to a family. And they were coming in an atmosphere where they are totally accepted and loved as they were in their with their painful past. They were embraced with compassion and given love. When it was clear to me that a lot of girls needed this kind of care, I made a public radio announcement to invite the girls to come. We opened our doors to accept them. And my announcement was clear that they should come. They should come with their children, come in the condition they were in, even if they were pregnant or raped. And I took that courage because I was trained as a midwife. We had to practically live our charism as Sacred Heart sisters. The charism says, live love in truth. For me, that was a moment of living and practicing it. We had to learn to live with a new generation of people. Show and point the future with hope. Knowing their painful past, we had to learn to live with them. We had to become mothers and teach them how to love. We had to teach them how to love the children God from painful situations. This was the most challenging and hard situation. Journeying with them and assuring them their lives could be rebuilt. Their life could be mended. And their broken pieces would look exactly like fabrics that can be stitched. This situation needed a lot of patience. It had never been easy to find the right word to convince them to accept that they are not supposed to blame themselves for whatever, for all what they were forced to commit. I think this is where forgiveness needs to be practically shown. These young women felt they were abandoned by God for the sins they committed. But we had to prove to them that God loved them as they were. Another challenge for us was to work with these people without resources. We had to find ways of building capacity. We had to physically work with these people while teaching them the importance and ethics of work. By this time, I realized I was not prepared. Handling the situation was very difficult for me too. I fell short of any professionalism because I had now to be a point of reference and I did not know what to do. I had my degrees, I had my certificates. In this situation, they were all useless. I only needed the degree of compassion. I needed the degree of acceptance and love. I had to bring out every knowledge which I had. I didn't have many experience myself, but I had to rely on the inherent gift from God. And for me, the best one was being present in the life of these people and going with them on a journey. The journey which was pointing towards hope for the future. This was a situation of practicing faith and not just preaching it. Working with child mothers, young girls who became mothers. St. Monica became the first school, the only Catholic school accepting women to come in with their children. Women who were pregnant, they were all accepted alike. We had to hire experienced mothers to help these women. This was a way of helping them to build their brokenness. And they felt their children were in a safe place because they had the great fear that the community were looking at these children as children of murderers, and the mothers felt threatened. They knew people would take revenge on their children. St. Monica became the safe haven for them. It was hard to feel that we were taking the right direction. The whole idea I had in mind was to be to address the holistic, to go towards the holistic approach of a human person in development. And this over time helped me to develop more practical skills by introducing different activities. These skills were useful for their future sustainability. We needed to teach them lessons for the future. We needed to become more innovative and also pretend to be entrepreneurs. We needed these girls to participate physically in all these activities. As such, we brought the idea of sewing clothes, dressmaking, sweater weaving, teaching them agriculture, teaching them how to cook very well. I want to tell you I'm a very good cook. And I was able to convince these girls about cooking. I told them people like eating and every day we feel hungry, so take up that profession. And I always remember to tell them, eating industry will never die. Assisting these people to cope with the trauma, rejection, and stigma we had to take one step at a time and find positive methods of exposing them again to the society. I proudly announced to the public that people can come to our center for meeting and the girls can cook. The girls could provide catering services. But they were supposed to pay for all the food they were eating. Eventually, people started appreciating the girls. Some people began to offer them employment opportunities. For those who could not find a job, we would employ them and then encourage them to start their own small business. Our students are handled with very tough love. I always tell them to aim towards perfection. And I tell them, I don't accept rubbish. So for everything they do, I remain the quality controller.
Racconta delle borse.
Okay, yes, I'm coming. To prove to you that I'm a quality controller, I'll show you the rubbish. I'm sure when you saw me coming in, you thought I was a model. is made from materials which was thrown away. And is very significant for my girls because they were also once thrown away. And after a lot of hard work and patience, you see this is beautiful. After using needles and thread, I always reminded the girls that the past has gone by and their future will not be defined by the pain they went through. I wanted these girls to walk in dignity for the rest of their lives. And when you see somebody who has worked so hard, you can see dignity and love in it. But one thing I never forgot to tell them was, love the children you got from painful situations. These children are the image of God, regardless of the way they came to the world. What happened in the life of these young people has to remind all of us how much work we need. We all have to work to break the cycle of violence. We all have to work to build peace. And we have to know this situation can happen anywhere. Let us also remember that these young people need a better future because their tomorrow can be better because of you and me. And also, this topic, which has been displayed, reminded me deeply that our young people in Uganda, the children born in captivity, have a heritage in God. They have a heritage in the kingdom. And the title of this meeting rightly points that out. They can reclaim their right position with God who created them. I would like all of you to remember you can do a lot to change the life of these young people. And remember not to say, I cannot do it because the situation is too overwhelming. Just start by doing small things. Take one step and remember to save one woman, one child, and one child at a time. If you don't take any step after hearing me, if you don't read the book, Cucire la Speranza, you will not be forgiving yourself because you are not breaking the silence, the violence cycle. You are not breaking it. That book is not the book of Shakespeare. When you look at the picture of sister behind it, Sister Rosemary, forget about that. Listen to the voices in the book and become part of that situation. I want to thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you. Yeah. Finished? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Aspetta.
So I was reading a Ghana book by Paul Claudel over the last few weeks, and I was struck by a sentence. The sentence said, being holy doesn't mean that you have to be stoned in the land of the pagans, but that you have to make the will of God. It means that you have to be at your place or to rise even higher. And this came to my mind when I read the book, and especially after this session this evening, because actually one of the most important things for which I'm grateful to Sister Rosemary lies exactly here. Not so much because we all have to go to Africa, but because we can live authentically our own faith, as Rosemary showed. And her full life, her cheerfulness, the cheerfulness that we experience being with her this evening is possible for any one of us. So maybe for there are lots of people working here at the meeting, some work at the exhibitions, other work at the various stands, some just came just for one day, but each and any one of us has the chance to live fully our daily life. And being cheerful and living a full life can take place also in spite of the pain and the sufferings that we have in life. And this comes to us by being willing to listen to the voice of God, as Rosemary said. This also makes us freer. This brings about freedom, and it brings about creativity in fulfilling what is required by the mystery. So not just going along our path, but following what is comes from above. So having this glimpse that characterized so much what Rosemary's did and the lives of her girls. This is possible only if we wish every day and only if we commit ourselves every day in this work of regaining what we bequeathed from our fathers. I would like to conclude by quoting Father Giussani, who said, and I quote, "The real problem of Christian holiness is not choosing what kind of attitude you need to have in the world, but rather recognizing something that happened to you and was donated to us and changes every day our face and our attitude." So our value, exactly as the value of these girls, lies in the objective reality of this. And we have to be penetrated by these decisions. So we should not be focused on ourselves. This is clear in Rosemary's history and faith. We should not focus so much on ourselves, but rather joining a project that has manifested itself in the flesh. And so I think it is no formality what I am about to tell you these days, but that this can really be the possibility to tangibly understand what it means to, in a way, penetrating and joining with our flesh, which is the possibility, the tangible possibility of contributing and donating what we have. As Rosemary said. In other words, not being indifferent, but the possibility of saying that we could contribute. So in the various halls, you will find booths for the fundraising. Funds can be donated only in dedicated desks, and you will be welcomed by volunteers wearing a green shirt. Two last household announcements are that, actually you don't see us, but they're really very beautiful. So these bags are on sale. They are available for sale outside the pavilion. You can buy the book as well, both here and in bookstores. Sister Rosemary also made herself available to meet anyone wishing to do it tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m. at the stand of the exhibition of an outward-looking church, and then from 5 to 6 p.m. she will be available to sign the copies of all of those who decide to buy the book. So thank you again, Sister Rosemary, for being with us. A big applause to you.